Okay, so here's the innovation business model that I think is going to help you get some entrepreneurial venture, some new idea that's actually going to do really well. And it's the same thing that I'd actually tell my PhD students and researchers. And it's actually, if you look at what we're doing right now within the innovation and entrepreneurship area, it's actually mimicking a lot of what we do in research and how we actually conduct research, how we learn from things. And that's the state of the art at this moment. For most part, many people that are studying innovation, entrepreneurship are mimicking this idea of learning, because the reason is that what innovation is all about, it's a learning process. It's you're trying to come up with some sort of problem, identify a particular problem, and then solve that particular problem. And what it is, it's trial and error after that. So there's no innovation scholar. I'm probably, I'm within the mix. There's no innovation scholar that would not tell you otherwise, right? And then the entrepreneurship literature has really focused on that, particularly since the lean startup conversation that's happened. So what would I do, right? In terms of if I was starting a new innovation, this is exactly what I did with the Reciprocity Project. I looked to see either what I spend a heck of a lot of money on a regular basis, and or B, something that I do on a regular basis that I enjoy or that's a problem for me, right? So for me, it's writing, and I struggle with writing. That's why I wanted to build the Reciprocity platform to help with writing for not just myself, but other people. So I've been building this thing out. And this is what I want you to do, is look to see what you've spent a lot of money on, what you actually do on a regular basis, and then pursue that particular domain, right? You want to actually do something that you enjoy, and that's within the domain that you're comfortable with, because it's going to take an awful lot of work. And so what you do is you start with that, you look at what you do, right? So say you like mountain biking. Well, then pursue something with mountain biking. Maybe it's the new bike, right? You want to create some sort of new bike, some sort of different version of it. Well, that's fine. Or maybe you want to create a new business within that particular domain. Maybe you take people on tourism, mountain biking tours around the world, which there's probably not that many people do that, and people would want to do that. So then you figure out, okay, what's the next step? I want to do this particular domain, create this thing. So if you're doing product innovation, what I would do is focus on creating really rough and junky versions of what you're thinking about. Right? Like, you've seen these new, I forget, like the kind of hoverboard thing with a great big wheel in the middle. Well, that was just, somebody sort of messing around with things and figuring out something that hasn't been done before, right? And so that's what you would want to think about. Think about all the sports that sort of relate to what you enjoy, and pursue that particular thing. So maybe it's mountain biking and you combine surfing together and you get this sort of big wheel thing. Well, maybe it's something else that you want to do, right? Maybe you like mountain biking and swimming. Well, then you think about how you can merge those two things together and create some sort of new functional form. And it's going to look, when you do that, when you're first, going through this, it's messy, it's ugly. And that's the whole point, right? Like, it's supposed to be messy and ugly. It's supposed to be cheap. You're not going to spend a heck of a lot of money on it. Please don't go out and spend a heck of a lot of money on this. The whole point is just to get something started, right? And as you do this, so this should probably take you about a month to do this, right? Whatever that thing is, or maybe it's a new business. You just have this idea and you start investigating and playing around with it. And this is, all your nights and weekends for a month. Right, and that's it, right? But you'll have a basic form at that moment, and that basic form is going to look ugly. That's okay, right? So then you go and you do another iteration after that. So you might actually get, what's called feedback. So you can talk to people. You can see how it actually works with your own body, right? With the thing that you're doing. You can try to enjoy this thing. Maybe you're trying to create some new tourism, the biking tourism example. Well, then you go on a trip, you sort of plan that trip out, and you see if you actually enjoy it and whether you can prototype this particular thing. And so the goal is figuring out, what do I enjoy, at the same time that you're trying to figure out a particular need in this area. And, this is the reason why people actually don't do anything that is, new and novel is they quit after that moment, right? They realize they don't like it. It sucks. And it's true. It does suck. That's the whole point. So I want you to sort of get the notion out of your head that this is going to be some sort of quick win thing, and all of that Shark Tank kind of stuff that you see, that people get all a bunch of money, the Dragon's Den sort of thing. If you're in the UK, people get all sorts of money. That's garbage. Like, it does not happen. That's not reality. The reality is it's a grind, and it's just a long grind. It's slow and painful. Just like as if you're doing a PhD, going to school, whatever. It's a slow and painful grind. And so what you need to do is take that slow and painful grind and do that. So you did that for a month and you still kind of enjoy it, right? So then do it another month. And then, after 2 months, if you still kind of enjoy it, you do it again, and you do it again. And you just keep refining and getting a little better and a little better. And use all the tools that are available that you can think of that can allow you to get this thing better, right? So you might do experimentation. That's the big thing that's happening right now in terms of experiments, right? So thinking about, how can I set up an experiment as if I'm a scientist, so that I can study this thing and actually see whether this thing is actually going to work out and find the best possible alternative. That's what people are doing at this moment within the entrepreneurship domain, right? That are really focusing and doing a good job at this. And then what you want to do is sort of, as you're doing it, you're thinking about reducing your costs, right? And also increasing the amount of revenue that you're coming in. The whole thing is about that, reducing your costs, increasing the benefit that you're bringing in. And the more that you do this, you go through cycles and cycles and cycles. The first few years, maybe it's even the first decade, it's not going to be that profitable, right? You're lucky if it's profitable within the first 5 to 10 years and doing well. You're pretty fortunate, right? Like if it's exploded, that probably means you tapped into something. But what you want to do is sort of keep working at it and massaging it and thinking about how you can sort of just do a better job of what you're doing. So 1 year, you might be thinking about this bicycle thing, right? The swim bike or whatever. You might be working on it, but you realize it's not going to work. Right. So, but then you take those principles that you've learned from building this thing and you reapply it to another area of something that actually fits. Right. But before you switch, before you go into something that's different, you want to make sure that you've rigorously thought this through in terms of what is going to work. Because we know that serial entrepreneurship actually works. We know that you do get better with serial entrepreneurship. We know that serial innovators do get better over time to sort of identify things. So what I'm getting you to think about is not necessarily how can I make money today, right? How can I sort of do this innovation thing or entrepreneurship thing so I can get, this new idea and make a whole bunch of money today. That's not what I'm getting you to think about. What I'm getting you to think about, it's almost like a lifestyle, where you are spending a proportion of your time and energy at something that is new and novel and nobody else has done before, right? So the rule that I use, that is pretty simplistic. It's the same rule that I use for investing. I invest 15% of everything I make into, long-term mutual funds, right? So that I've got this long-term benefit. That means I'm distributing the amount of wealth that I have, but also 10 to 15% of my time and energy and resources on the reciprocity project, right? So it's always kind of growing, always kind of developing. And, the thing is nobody is going to be as passionate about this thing as you are. That's the truth of it. So you have to begin to realize as you're doing this, nobody else cares but you. And you got to take it and go. Right? Nobody cares. I'm just telling you this. And so what you're looking for as you're doing this, and as it's the same thing as what I'm doing, you can see what I'm doing, is I'm looking for options, right? And optionality with this. So someday, if this thing takes off, perhaps I can find somebody that's going to help me out with it, right? Or perhaps I find a different way that's going to go in different directions. And then I can reinvest in those particular directions, right? And that is quite lucrative at the moment, right? So if there is a domain that's actually taking off, then I do that particular domain. Now, if I want to, in terms of, getting the word out and stuff, you have to just start talking to people. Nobody cares about this thing. Nobody's going to steal the idea. Trust me, nobody does. You don't have to worry about copyright and, patents and all of that kind of stuff at the moment. That's only if it actually really takes off. If it really takes off and becomes a thing, then you can start worrying about that. At the moment, you're really just thinking about how do I get it to fit, to find the sort of functionality that fits. If it starts taking off, then it makes sense to go through patenting and go through all of that work. But until that moment where it starts clicking, it's really not worth your time and effort, and you're just going to be frustrated. But the key is to do that thing on a monthly basis, right? You get up and you do it. You get up and you do it. And you get up and you do it. And you just keep doing that, and you get almost into this like lifestyle. And that's it. This is the future of entrepreneurship right now, and future of innovation is getting up and doing these things and being okay with it. All right, take care. And hopefully this helps you out. Take care and have a wonderful day.